A to the K.
To the K.
To the K. Coming up tonight on the Ringside Report. Bobby Lashley may require shoulder surgery.
Cody Rhodes allegedly seen at Orlando Airport, reportedly heading to the WWE PC.
Tony Khan reportedly set to give a massive announcement. Another one.
Rachael Ellering is done with Impact Wrestling.
Kenny Omega updates on the AEW video game.
CM Punk is set to join the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame.
JBL teases a potential future as a manager and reveals who he would love to manage.
WWE rehire Drake Maverick again.
And AJ Styles signs extension with WWE. Anthony, when's all that coming up?
It's all coming up right fucking now.
Yes, it is. So, let's kick off, shall we, with the first one. Bobby Lashley. It's been reported that he may require shoulder surgery. So, anyone who saw Elimination Chamber this past weekend will observe that Bobby was taken out of the match early on with a supposed injury from the Elimination Chamber. However, it's been reported that he's actually been working through injury since the Royal Rumble when he wrestled with Brock Lesnar. And I think when we watched it at the time, we were even picking up on the fact that he was taking some of them German suplexes really badly, to the point where we were like, oh, that, he needs to stop taking these. He's really going to hurt himself. And it seems like that might actually have been the case, and he might actually be hurt. So, according to former WWE writer Kazim Famuyid, butchered that, from the Ring of Wrestling Show, Bobby Lashley is actually dealing with a legitimate shoulder injury and could be out of action for a while. I have it under good authority that Lashley is shoot hurt and has been hurt since the Rumble. If you noticed, he hasn't worked any Raws, he hasn't really defended his title. He was shoot hurt at the Lesnar Rumble match, and again, I was wondering how they were going to work him in there while being hurt. I'm assuming this concussion protocol thing is the way to get him out of there. So, by all accounts, if the injury is pretty serious, it looks like he could be expected to have some kind of shoulder surgery that would keep him away for a good few months. So hopefully that's not the case. For his sake, he's obviously just got the title back again. Has had to have it taken off him. So yeah, speedy recovery, however severe. It
kind of makes sense because it did seem like an unusual decision to put it straight back off him again. But I suppose if he's needing the surgery, then necessity in it. No, exactly. Like you say, hopefully speedy recovery for the man. He's an absolute beast, so I'm sure he'll be back before we expect.
Fingers crossed.
Indeed. Cody Rhodes speculation. Yes, speculation, guys, because no one really knows, let's be honest. But, Carl, as you know, there were some suggestions that he was going to show up at Elimination Chamber. There were some suggestions that he was at the airport, he was headed to Saudi, etc. We were part of those suggestions because it was being heavily reported on the likes of Reddit, on a Polish wrestling group, etc., as to where he was headed. So, a bit of an update on that. Apparently, he was seen at the Orlando International Airport within an hour of the Elimination Chamber event concluding. It seems he was headed to Florida. So the suggestion, heavily from, I believe,
well, I can't wait for the brand new Where's Cody
Center
book that's sure to hit our shelves sometime soon. I think a lot of speculation happens, doesn't it, when wrestlers leave companies or get released and things like that in terms of where they're going to show up next. And I think that's already started to happen in Cody's case. There's a lot of speculation, a lot of people reporting he's definitely signed with WWE, others reporting that he's still working on a deal with them. Others saying that he's just taking time off to be a dad. Like, I don't think anyone's 100% confirmed this is what's happening. So
he clearly has a passion for wrestling, so he's not done with the business, let's be honest. One I'd want to bring to you though, Carl, is Kenny Omega's comments. Now, I don't seen them, but he opened up to F4W Online. Could have picked other podcasts, whatever. I'm kidding. So he opened up to F4W Online, and his comments have actually intrigued because he's basically, he's not saying that he knows for sure. He's not saying he's had a conversation with Cody, but based on the fact that he knows Cody, he has basically said that he doesn't think it was an issue of money. That he thinks that it was an issue of creative freedom. In that Cody obviously had a particular vision, and again he said it's not something they ever all really sat down and talked about what's your vision for. Like, they wanted to change the landscape of wrestling, and they succeeded doing so. They got a fantastic product in AEW. They can all be proud of what AEW is and where Tony is with it, but they've never really been sort of sat down and gone, what do we think wrestling is going to look like? What do we want it to be? And what he's basically said in this interview, and I am paraphrasing, is that his vision aligns more with the books and what's happening now with AEW, thereabouts. But he said Cody was always a bit more out there with his vision and a bit different, and he thinks that it's speculative on his part, but going off the Cody he knows, he doesn't think it's about money. It's about him not being able to sort of execute the vision he sees wrestling being. But the reason I find that super intriguing is because why would you go to WWE if that were the case?
Well, I mean, the comments about his thoughts being out there would marry up with WWE, I suppose, in some instances. But yeah, I think he's obviously
all rematches. That's what I envisage.
He's obviously a very well-off bguy. He's been very prominent on the wrestling scene, high up the card for many years. He's obviously got stuff like the Go Big Show and the that Road to the Top and stuff like that. So he's obviously got a decent amount of money. So it does make sense that it's not solely kind of money related. That being said, I think Kenny could be right in a sense of they all formed this company together as like EVPs, and they had this collective vision, or at least they thought of what it was going to be. And then I think as Tony's got more involved and more hands-on with things, and the creative control has kind of been removed from all of them, I think he probably sees it. Maybe Tony's vision lines up more with, the likes of Kenny in the book. So maybe he just thinks he's never going to get his vision across while he's there. But yeah, to your point, is WWE the place where he would? Like, what
For me, I can see a couple of things happening. Like, for starters, I think I find it interesting that from the comments of Kenny, I find it interesting that if it wasn't about money and it was about creative control on a level, that isn't a point that him or Tony could get past. I find that very interesting. He wasn't willing to give him, and it kind of lines up because I think he suggested that Tony Khan wasn't overly thrilled with Cody's segments. I think I mentioned this in the previous news, whereby like some of the stuff that Cody tried to execute in his own storytelling, which he still had control over, Tony wasn't a particular fan. Obviously, he let it play out, and it still got the crowd reaction because people like Cody, but it wasn't exactly what Tony would have wanted. So it seems like is it Tony? Is Tony being a stickler for like, this is my vision and this is what it's going to be? And is that potentially a damaging thing? If Tony's off base and no one's going to tell him otherwise, you know what I mean? That's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah.
But the other thing I would say is, like, I'm not going to rule out seeing Cody WWE. I just don't think we'll see him long-term contract. I'll put it that way. You see Goldberg rocking up for like X amount of matches. I could see him now being very open to an appearance. I don't think that would be an issue. Like, if it panned out, for instance, and apologies to jump ahead because we haven't discussed this at all. We'll be discussing it next week. But if Edge's opponent for WrestleMania ends up being Cody, that wouldn't surprise me. It'd be a bit of an odd matchup because I wouldn't say they've ever really had a history together. But if it was like, we want to pop and Cody rocks up, I wouldn't be surprised if Cody does a Mania. But does that mean he's going to sign with WWE any long term? I don't think he could, because it wouldn't give. If you wanted to go somewhere that give you the creative freedom, I could see him going to NWA or Impact, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you could even join up with that free narrative or whatever the thing that's going on at the minute. That's definitely out there.
Free narrative.
But yeah, I mean, you could be right. I think there's definitely, whether the WWE social team and like the writers are just absolute trolls or what, but like there's been a lot of Cody references like all over the Twitter yesterday for Raw. It was all like they were using stuff like adrenaline and like Well,
thing
no,
is,
like
though,
like legit. They were used like
no,
it was
the
like
Miz has
they
made
used
references.
smoke and
Edge,
mirrors and stuff like that. In what they're saying, it just felt really out there. So
Edge has clearly made some references, and so has the Miz as well. I
Yeah.
think they know what they're doing, and to be honest, I don't even think they started it. I think when Cody left, tied up to Elimination Chamber that much that WWE didn't need to say a thing, and people were going to speculate on that. And I think they've just kind of ran with the speculation now because it just gets viewers, doesn't it? Gets attention. They're not stupid.
Yeah. But no, they're definitely leaning into it, aren't they? Saying things like, he's dashing and, from a wrestling family or whatever, a fighting family and stuff like that. It kind of, it gets those eyeballs on it, doesn't it? It gets people speculating. So, would they be saying that if they didn't have something in the works? Like, are they going to just troll like that? Who knows? But yeah, it's all remains to be seen. For all we know, he could just be like, you know what, I want some time off and actually spend some time with my kid. And it could just be that, but I guess we will know more when we know more, and let's see whether someone else like a Fightful or whatever break the story first and spoil it for everybody, or
I mean, we could break it first,
surprised.
but it probably wouldn't be true.
Well, sometimes you've got to gamble. I'm sure that's what most of them do anyway. I kid, but yeah, interesting one, and who knows which airport will he pop up in next? Turn the page, and where's Cody?
Yeah. What you got to do? The trick is to look out for the skull on his neck. That's how you spot him.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one. Talk about Tony Khan has basically announced this past Friday that he's working on something massive that he hopes to have done within this week. Basically, Tony was on Busted Open Radio and he said there's going to be a lot of news in the week ahead. I don't know if I'll get it done by tonight, but stay tuned in the week ahead. Hopefully, I'm working on something pretty big. It would be massive. I don't know if it's what anybody would expect it is or think it is, but it'd be a big deal in pro wrestling. I'm looking forward to hopefully making it happen. Stay tuned. Hopefully, I'll get it done and we'll have more to announce soon. In an update, Meltzer basically reported that Khan was in meetings all day trying to put together the massive deal. He didn't provide any kind of further details on what that deal could be, of course. But yeah, I think there's been a lot of speculation since then of like people not expecting it to be like a wrestler as such who's expected to debut with the company or something like that, but something maybe in terms of like a super show, like working with the likes of New Japan and Impact or something and putting something together that way. But you've also got a lot of people out there who are basically, I mean, they're very anti-AEW anyway, but there's a little bit of truth in it to a degree. So whenever AEW has a little bit of a ratings dip, you tend to see Tony Khan come out and do stuff like this, and it has become a bit of a pattern. And I think obviously, we've called it out a little bit on the show as well in terms of what his definition of massive and groundbreaking and stuff like that is. When he says these things, so who knows what it could be? But by all accounts, the speculation, at least, is that it's not going to be a new signing as such, but something bigger, like some kind of super show or some kind of deal, maybe even like a network or like his version of WWE Network or something like that. So
I think it could be overhyped again, but it could even be a new TV deal because I've heard that theirs is coming up, and obviously that is big news in the sense of like a better TV deal, a bigger TV deal means more money, means more of a pocket to buy wrestlers, So yeah, you never know.
I own you now. I'm playing with my toys, literally.
All right, probably not the right way of putting it, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't know when the contracts come up. I think I read somewhere though that it might not be for another year or two, because I think one of the risks that people are saying is that he's run out of money now, and so he can't keep, signing new people because the budget won't allow it until he gets that new TV deal, which isn't coming.
See, I never trust when people go on about Tony Khan's money situation because everyone was saying they've all forgot about it now, but everyone was saying like, oh, he's in debt now because the AEW game's not come out and he's sunk all of his money into the AEW game. He's a fool, etc. And it's like, oh, that speculation went away, didn't it? Because the company kept going. Everyone's expecting him to bankrupt himself somehow.
Yeah, I mean, he's still a Khan. You know what I mean? Like the money, his allowance that his dad's given to play with here.
That's what his meetings all day were. Like, nah, come on,
come on, please. That'll be good.
Yeah, he gets a bigger allowance.
I'll tweet about Fulham again. Come on. But no, kid. But yeah, it's obviously as a wrestling fan, it's all exciting stuff, and you can say whatever you want about Tony and like the level of announcements that he makes, whether or not they are monumental, huge, massive, whatever. As a wrestling fan, it's exciting, isn't it? To know that you might get a surprise debut, or you might get a, even stuff like the Owen Hart Cup, which they've not really done anything with since, mind you.
True.
But when they announced that, I was made up, and it's these little things that you just don't expect to see, and it's stuff that you look forward to.
See, this is the thing for me. Like, people are very anti-AEW with this, but like, if he reacts to a ratings dip by unveiling a surprise wrestler that's actually pretty decent, I'm fine with that. Like, it's better than, and I'm not comparing it. Well, I am comparing the two, but fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway. It's better than going, let's throw Logan Paul at it.
Well, yeah.
Like, or let's have Johnny Knoxville in a match at Mania. No, let's not. Like, I much prefer when we're getting surprises like Punk coming back to wrestling after all these years, Daniel Bryan showing up suddenly after leaving WWE, Keith Lee signing was even a big deal. I'm totally fine with these kind of surprises to pull ratings. That's fine. Everyone tries to pull ratings. That's the bottom line of it. It's how the fucking game works, isn't it?
Well, exactly. And I mean, to be fair to WWE with like the Logan Paul stuff and things, like AEW did the same with Shaq, didn't they, and things. And even this week they had Cobra Kai fella and Melissa Joan Hart.
I'm an old man, Carl. I'm an old man, so I don't get the Logan Paul thing, and it upsets me.
This is true. It is very true. But
and like you Cobra Kai guy, we all know who John Kreese is. Did I say that right? Kreese.
Apparently, we don't all know who he is. I didn't even know his name, and Anthony doesn't know how to say his name. I know he's a Cobra Kai guy.
Cobra Kai. He's a Karate Kid, the original Karate Kid he was in as well. Come on.
Kai guy.
The Cobra Kai guy.
He's always Kai guy to me. But yeah, who knows what this monumental announcement or surprise is going to be? He said it was happening this week. We're already in Tuesday. We're 15 minutes. We're an hour and 15 minutes away from it being Wednesday. Come on, what's going on? Yeah, stay tuned. Maybe we can talk about it next week when he's actually announced it. And I'll be fuming if he announces it in the next few minutes and we miss it for the show. So.
It's Tuesday night. You know what that means?
Indeed.
Nothing. So yeah, I'm with you, Carl. It's exciting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Massive announcements. It's such a tough day. Where's found me? So, Carl, next one. Just almost quite a quick one, but an interesting one, to say the least, because I think it was almost a bit of a surprise, let's say. But Rachael Ellering is no longer with Impact Wrestling. Now, you may recognize the name, Carl, because for starters, she is the daughter of WWE Hall of Famer Paul Ellering.
Mm-hmm.
She was signed to NXT back in 2019. She joined Impact Wrestling in 2021. So I think a lot of people were expecting a considerable longer tenure with Impact Wrestling, but it seems that she is now done with the company. I think, again, some people probably saw this on the cards because she was replaced in the Ultimate X match, let's call it, Knockout, whatever they call it. Obviously they did the tapings in the January. She was pulled from that, so there's speculation as to why she was pulled from that, and obviously now she is she's no longer with Impact, so we've no word on where she's going or if she's continuing wrestling. You imagine she is, being a legacy. But an interesting one, to say the least. What do you think of what's going on there at the minute with Impact? And they've got a hell of a women's division. You know, one of the best women's wrestlers in the world is the top of their division, let's say. But at the same time, they've been losing some people lately.
It's an interesting approach that they've got. It seems like they are actually signing less and less people, but opening the forbidden door, TM, to more and more, independents. Yeah, true. Opening the forbidden door to more and more kind of independent kind of contractors almost. So obviously, you look at your likes of your Mickey James isn't contracted to Impact, but is their world, knockouts champion.
Well, look at the likes of like Kira Hogan was an Impact wrestler. She's now with AEW, but can still work with Impact on a level. Like, things like that are happening as well. Like you say, she's now signed with AEW, really. And it probably is a smart move for them. They save money, but they can still have people on an ad hoc basis, I suppose.
Well, exactly. So, it's an interesting business model, and it leads to some exciting stuff, like the stuff going on with Guerrillas of Destiny and, the what are they called? Not the OC. What are they called? Gallows and Anderson. Whatever the fuck they're called these days.
Good Brothers.
There you go. Yeah, Good Brothers. So
the OC.
That's what they were called in. That's what they were called in WWE, wasn't it?
Oh, the thing
original club or whatever they did.
Yeah, the thing they did with AJ. Yeah.
Yeah, AJOC. But yeah, so it's an exciting thing, I suppose, in a sense, in terms of what they have got going on and the types of talent they bring in, like Jay White and people like that as well. But yeah, it's an interesting one. This I don't know whether Rachael Ellering is planning on joining another company, whether she just doesn't want to be with Impact anymore. Like who knows? But interesting move. I'm interested to see where she ends up.
Indeed.
Indubitably. So the next one, bit of an update on the AEW game. So obviously highly anticipated. It's been in development for a long, long time. Obviously working with the likes of Ukes and the people who developed.
Let's put some time into removing Cody from it now. He was quite great.
This is true. Yeah. That's a very good point. Actually, it's probably one of the first ones I've had to take out, isn't it? But yeah. Anyone who follows wrestling games will have seen WWE 2K22 that was kind of unveiled in a bit more detail the past couple of weeks, and obviously much improved graphics and things like that. It's gone down quite favourably with fans. Kenny was interviewed by Uncle Dave on the Wrestling Observer Radio and basically was quoted as saying, "We're working on our next presentation. We're working non-stop around the clock on this game. There's a lot of deadlines that we're trying to reach. We don't ever want to keep anyone in the dark completely, and it's been quite some time since we've had an actual update. Not just information, but we want to be able to show people something. I would expect, hopefully, to have something prepared for people to show very soon. I don't want to promise at the pay-per-view or the pay-per-view week, but we're hoping to possibly show a little bit more and reveal maybe a new character." He did comment though, based off the fact of WWE's 2K release, saying that at the end of the day, their main focus is around the actual putting an emphasis on the wrestling aspect of the game, and kind of highlighted the fact that the visuals and stuff and the production values of WWE's game are great, and it's unlikely that they're going to be able to compete with that in terms of like the presentation. He said 2K22 is absolutely gorgeous, but at the end of the day,
he could have competed with 2K20.
This is just that hard. But yeah, effectively he said that the whole focus is making a really enjoyable wrestling game that you want to play, that can feel like you can just pick it up and play it, but at the same time feel more kind of arcadey style, and that you're actually taking control of the character, and it's not too generic in that sense. So obviously,
I like that mentality. I would happily play if they released it, which I haven't looked into, so apologies if they haven't. Someone's going to be a smart ass about it. If they released like Here Comes the Pain on the PS4, now I would play the fuck out of that.
Well, exactly. I mean,
2K22, it's meant to be like more of a real sports thing, isn't it? They make all the other sports games, and you get that vibe. They go for more realism, and it's fun, yeah. But come on, the games we had as kids, not to sound like an old man, the games we had as kids, Carl, the PS2, just the best fucking wrestling games, weren't they?
Well, exactly. Ukes are heavily involved in that as well, and anyone who owned an N64 back in the day will obviously know of how much people love that control system.
Yeah, I mean, there were those weirdos, but the PlayStation 2 was where it was at.
Well, yeah, that too. But
SmackDown games were way better, than the N64 garbage.
Well, exactly. But yeah, I think in an ideal world, you're going to get some kind of blend here of both, ideally, because they've got kind of the best of both worlds working on it. So I'm excited to see it. Obviously, it's looked very different each time we've kind of seen it. The first time it was unveiled to us, it looked very kind of cartoony and kind of WWE, what's it called, that game, like WWE All Stars or whatever style, or Battlegrounds, yeah. And then obviously the later version showed much more kind of realistic. So it's very much a kind of evolutionary process. I think it's the first game they're putting out, and they're trying to just get it right, I guess. So for me, I'm cool with it. Take as long as they need to take. I mean, more importantly, because I haven't got a PS5 yet, and so when I get a PS5,
I'm kind of hoping they put it on the 4. I'm not going to have a PS5 for a while, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, me neither, to be fair. I don't even play on PS4, but my point is, if it takes long enough to the point the PS5 comes down in price where I'll actually buy it, then it'll be cool to play it on that. So I'm in no rush.
AEW bundle.
Maybe.
Especially branded AEW PS5. Do it. Let's do it, Tony.
Let's do it. But, yeah, interesting update, I would say, and sounds like we might have something to see, potentially, in the kind of run-up to Revolution. So not too far to wait, just a little over a couple of weeks. So yeah,
indeed. So Carl, the next one is the big unveiling. CM Punk is the final inductee to Ring of Honor's inaugural Hall of Fame class.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually. It's nice to know. It's nice to have it confirmed. They confirmed it on Monday Gone. I'm not surprised because he's one of the main names you think of when you think of Ring of Honor, isn't he? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Right. But obviously, we're looking at the class now of 2022. We've got Bryan Danielson, Samoa Joe, and I believe the Briscoes, along with CM Punk. And again, it just makes absolute sense to me that Punk's part of it. But awesome. It's great to see. It's great to see like these are people who helped make Ring of Honor what it was. So it's great to see that we're getting a Hall of Fame and that these guys are being recognised in it.
Absolutely. Everyone that they've mentioned there, was a pivotal player in Ring of Honor. The thing that I am worried about is I hope it doesn't stop the likes of, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and people like that who, shone really brightly for Ring of Honor. I hope the fact that they're with WWE doesn't stop them from going in. I don't know why it would, and certainly
it might. Like the only thing it might do, and I get it for the inaugural class. These are people who will probably get involved quite heavily. The worst thing I think you might get if you induct the likes of Kevin Owens would be that WWE compel him not to go or not to get involved. They can't really stop him from being honoured. Do you know what I mean?
True.
But I think that obviously this time around it's their inaugural one, so they don't want to go for anything that's going to be difficult to obtain or controversial. And I'm not saying that's why they haven't been listed this time, but I don't think it'll stop them from being inducted. I just think I'd be surprised if they get inducted and can attend.
Well, yeah, but it is interesting, isn't it? Like I think definitely all deserved for the first kind of class, but I'd like to hope that for the additional ones down the line that we do get to see some of the WWE roster in there because a lot of them.
I wasn't a big Ring of Honor guy, but I'm right in saying even the likes of Seth Rollins, who's a big WWE guy, was a Ring of Honor guy.
Yeah, Seth Rollins was in there. So bloody many of them.
I mean, sadly, WWE spent a good decade or so just taken from Ring of Honor, didn't they?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was seen as the ultimate kind of step up, wasn't it, at the time? If like you proved yourself in Ring of Honor, and then you kind of made that transition. But even the likes of Cesaro, and I mean, people like Eddie Kingston and that have worked down there as well. So there's loads of old school kind of talent that should be honoured as well in the future, and hopefully they will. But yeah, big congrats to who was it? Punk, Danielson, Joe, and the Briscoes.
It was, mate.
Hell of a class.
Hell of a class.
Well,
class you'd want to be in, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. Actually, probably end up getting a steel chair wrapped around my face, but other than that,
we'll end up going to sleep.
Hey. So the next one to talk about, good old JBL. Has revealed he's revealed that he might be interested in moving into management one day. So he was basically having an interview with Inside the Ropes, and basically was kind of talking about how much he loves Baron Corbin, saying that the former champ, well, I'm just paraphrasing from the interview, but essentially he would love to manage Corbin somewhere down the line, but he revealed
teach him how to be really unlikable.
Well, exactly. He was quoted as saying, "I love Baron Corbin. I think he's a really smart guy, and I think Corbin is a guy I would like to manage." But he also revealed that the problem he's got, and maybe one of the reasons why he hasn't transitioned into a manager role, so far, is he said, "I'm kind of like the Colonel Parker. I'm tall, and so I can't manage a lot of people because I'm 6'6", and you don't want a manager that's bigger than the wrestler. So I'm quite limited in terms of who I could manage because of the size." Which is an interesting shout, I suppose, isn't it? To be fair,
yeah, you don't think about it, but it's a very subtle psychology that you don't think about it. But I don't think I've ever really seen a manager that's been much taller.
Yeah.
And yeah, it probably would seem a bit odd.
Yeah. It's just something you would never consider, isn't it?
That JBL. Mm-hmm.
It is.
So he's decided commentary's not for him.
Well, yeah.
Do you know what? Like, fair play to JBL. Like, I know he's a controversial in some senses. Some people say he's a bit of a knob. Some people say he's a massive knob. You just don't know the truth of it. But I don't know. I don't know why I'm firing shots. I really don't. But that being said, in terms of like his character, I do you know what? In all fairness, he was decent in APA, but the truth of it was JBL was the character that broke him out, wasn't it? And I actually think that could pair well with Corbin, in all fairness.
I mean, both got cowboy hats.
Well, if you pull Corbin away from the happy Corbin stuff and have like JBL there to sort of almost refine him and help him get to the top, it would make a bit of sense, wouldn't it, as far as stories go? And he would be a hell of a manager for Corbin. If you lean into the not being liked by the crowd, especially.
Well, yeah. It
would heal JBL.
I was going to say, it'd only work as heels, wouldn't it? But yeah, interesting whether or not that ever does happen. It's an interesting one with Baron Corbin, isn't it? Because he's just kind of never really found that character as such. Obviously, the Lone Wolf thing wasn't really great. Then he came over and he was just kind of doing nothing. Then he was Commissioner Corbin for a bit, King Corbin for a bit, and now he was sad Corbin, now happy Corbin.
Was he the first of like current roster stars just suddenly being in management positions? Like Sonya followed his footsteps, so I think he was the first one to do that one. Before that, you had like legends coming back and stuff, maybe. But
yeah,
or did Austin run one for a while? I feel like Austin might have done it.
Oof. Who knows?
Was Austin never like GM or something at one point? I feel like that happened.
I mean, yeah, way back when he was a commissioner, but I don't think he was really wrestling much as such.
Fair enough. But anyway, Corbin, like he's definitely got something. The more time goes on, the more I feel sorry for him because like he just puts the work in. He's always there. He's always putting the work in, and he just hasn't had that breakout character or the breakout moment. Or I don't know what it is, but something's kept him from the top spot, hasn't it?
Yeah, I definitely think as much as I don't like the Happy Corbin character, it's definitely been good for him. I think because it's allowed us to see that he actually has got a personality.
I'd agree
so
with that.
it's whether or not he can do something better off the back of it and just keep. I mean, it's like Chad Gable, isn't it, and stuff. It's eventually you keep getting dealt shit, and you will,
So you just wonder how long have you got to pay your dues?
That's
He's
it.
been paying them for a while.
He has.
He come up before Gable, didn't he? In terms of main roster, come up. He's been on the main roster for some time, and he's been putting the work in on the mid card. And I don't even think they've respected him as a mid card player because he's not really he's had titles, but he's not really had a long run with the IC title or anything, has he?
No, he's in a really weird, unique position,
team,
isn't he? He's like he's not like at risk of being let go by the looks of it, but he's not in any kind of sort of prominence either. He's just sort of there. Like people are quite high on him, but he doesn't do anything of any substance. So. Weird.
That's the thing. He feels like a lifer. Like at some point he's going to be in the top spot because he's just been there that long. But as soon as he get it now, like they just hit on the right gimmick, on the right thing, and maybe JBL is the component that's needed. That's all I'm thinking.
Maybe.
So Carl, next one. There's a roller coaster ride for you. Do you remember Drake Maverick?
Yes, I do. Rockstar Spud himself.
Rockstar Spud, local fella.
Mm-hmm.
So you might recall he came up in TNA. Joined WWE back in 2017 on the 205 live scene. I believe did a lot more management than anything, in all fairness, on the scene. But in NXT for a considerable amount of time, got involved in the cruiserweight tournament scene, and sadly was released in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we talking about him? Well, Carl, after his release, you may recall there was an extremely emotional response from Drake on his social medias. And it led to this whole story of he's going to finish off the tournament. By the end of the tournament, WWE re-signed him. Was it a work? I don't know. Didn't feel like a work. Why would you do a work as well when you sacked other people? So it felt real. But they re-signed him. Yay, right? And then obviously had a fairly quiet time, done a tag team with Big Damo. Is that what they called him? Killian Dane.
Killian Dane, he was there. Yeah.
Sorry. And again was released in November 2021, and that was the end of Drake, or so we thought. So it turns out he's been hired again by who, you ask? WWE again. So apparently we're being told now that for the last, I believe, 3 weeks, they reckon, for the last 3 weeks almost, Carl, he has actually been re-signed with WWE and is actually now part of Raw's creative team. So he's not been re-signed in the same capacity, but he has been working backstage for a few weeks now, and that seems to be the contract he has been given. And you know what? He's a very talented guy. He's definitely an asset to the company, but it's surprising because it just seems like we get told that he's been sacked quite a lot, and he never leaves.
I mean, I don't want to give him all the plaudits and all the credit here, but we have been saying Raw's been in a bit of an upswing for like the past 3 weeks or so.
all down to Drake.
It's all down to Drake. But I mean, I'm made up for him. I think he's such a nice dude. Obviously, he's relatively local, kind of Birmingham way. He's a big Everton fan, so obviously we're cool.
We'll call him Mo because he's not Southerner.
Well, yeah, there you go. Just alienated a significant portion of.
I'm not against Southerners. I'm just saying if you're down London, it's a fair trek. So you're not a local lad. But anything sort of north, I'll give them the west of the. It's all good.
Hey Cody, gonna borrow your shovel? Just a second. I kid. But no, obviously we're big fans of Drake. Great music. We're also big fans of Drake Maverick. And I'm made up that he is back with the company.
I nearly went for a controversial joke there, Carl, and it's your fault.
Don't. You've done enough. Okay. Tell me off it. It's cool. But yeah, so made up for him, obviously. Hopefully he can add something that, Raw's been missing for a while, really, in terms of
I think
strong creativity.
I think he should start doing seminars with wrestlers who've been released by WWE, just to explain to them how they can end up staying. Because this guy's he's like termites. You can't get fucking rid of him.
Don't you? He's on the creative team because he's going to come out now as Nikki Ash's sidekick, the termite.
Oh God. I feel like he's the master of disguise. He's Vince has fired Drake Maverick, and then Drake Maverick just appears behind him with a fake mustache and a broom. Good to see that guy go.
It's like that Simpsons meme, isn't it, where Mo throws is it Barney or Homer out of Moe's?
He's back at the bar.
Yeah.
It feels definitely. like that. That's probably hanging around Reddit somewhere. That exact image.
I'm sure it does. If not, I'm going to steal it. I'm going to make it. But
no, he's the master of staying in WWE, and it's impressive to say the least.
Absolutely. But yeah, made up for him as well. Obviously, stand-up guy, and glad he's back with the company, and hopefully he does good stuff.
Good stuff. And you heard it here first. He is the reason Raw's been actually watchable.
I believe it could be. Could be around about. The timeline does line up. Let's see.
It does line up.
I mean, I believe we had Logan Paul on it yesterday, though. So
doesn't line up.
We'll see when we watch it.
So to be honest, he probably looked at it and went 3 hours as well. So you've got to try and fill those hours, man.
That's true. So the final one to talk about then, a bit of breaking news come through tonight, reported by Sean Rossap of Fightful.com. AJ Styles has re-signed with WWE. That's all he's kind of given away, really. It's like you have to go and subscribe to his thing if you want to know more. But
subscribe to his thing.
Subscribe
his
to
OnlyFans.
my thing. Yeah.
If you join his OnlyFans, he'll tell you stuff.
He will. For just a small fee. But no, apparently he's re-signed with WWE, and it's said to be a big money deal. So, what do you make of this? Obviously, AJ Styles, one of the best.
I'm more surprised by the big money deal. Seem to have been getting rid of some of the top money earners, contract wise. Well,
you say this, Anthony, but at the same time, what does WWE class as a contract? So you might sign him for more money, but could be gone. Could
this be the beginning of the end?
Yeah.
We need to save millions. Hey, AJ. No, I joke, but the last big money contract I remember was Braun, and you go, that was big money. Especially, no offense to Braun, but surprising as well for the position they had Braun in the company. Not that he didn't deserve it, but the big money was going to Seth, and that made sense. And then they give a big money contract to Braun, and you're like, okay, maybe don't use him in the mid card so much then. But it was a draw, bottom line. But then obviously, like you say, contract meant nothing because they released him anyway. 90 days, see you later, mate. And I'm hoping that's not the case for AJ, because AJ's he's an absolute asset, and I believe Vince McMahon was a lot more keen on him than I think we expected, Carl. And again, no slight to AJ, but because he was a TNA guy, I don't think we expected Vince to be so big on him. But half the reason he's had the push he's had in the company is because Vince sees in him what the rest of the world, I suppose, seeing him, that he's a fucking brilliantly talented guy.
Yeah, it's so fascinating, the AJ Styles story. He's someone who I think we've said on the show many times, we never thought he'd even make it to WWE. And so to get to the position he's in, the kind of credibility he's got, the pull with Vince that he's got, is just unfathomable, really, isn't it? And obviously signing this massive, big money deal to keep him with the company. I think he's even admitted himself that he probably wants to once his in-ring career is done, and he's not going to be doing it for significantly longer, to maybe stick with the likes of the WWE and help some of the talent and stuff like that. So maybe he's going to be.
Well, no matter what side of the fight you're on with wrestling, it's more about the fandom than it is anything else. I think AJ himself has said, like, we're all friends. Like, people want us to not like each other, but it's not the reality of it, which is so true. But if you look at purely from a behind the scenes point of view, I totally get where AJ's coming from with that. Like, their performance center is unmatched, isn't it, in terms of like developing talents and bringing talents up. NXT can be criticized for the changes they've made now, and that'll be debatable for some time. But the actual performance center stuff and the way they're signing talents and having absolute legends there to train those people, just a perfect shout, isn't it? I would love to see him work on that side of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, they did bin off like the majority of the great trainers not too long ago, but when they did, when they had the likes of William Regal there, that was great. But I think there's some weird parallel between AJ Styles and Shawn Michaels in Vince McMahon's mind. Vince absolutely. What?
AJ's found God.
well, maybe. I don't know. Isn't he a flat earther? I don't know.
Didn't Randy put that rumor out there or something?
No idea. But yeah, I believe Vince, for whatever reason, sees so many similarities between AJ and Shawn, and obviously Shawn Michaels has been basically Vince's guy along with Taker for forever. Like, there's a unbreakable bond there. So it's
Taker and Piss Taker, yeah.
Hey, I fucking love that. I love that. The heartbreak skid.
It's so British. It's so British.
That's so great. I love it. So things are looking good for AJ, and what an unlikely story. I'm
very much a TNA guy, and here we are. Very
much. I don't think Vince knows what TNA is. He's like, you like the TNA, do you?
I was a big fan of that back in the day. Used to book a lot of that myself.
Yeah. Have you met Ric Flair? Anyway. So, yeah, that was the news.
I love
this
it.
week.
Anytime like AJ mentions TNA, Vince just gets his phone out and starts showing him pictures of girls that he's copped off with back in the day.
Yeah, and so when I bought WCW, I brought in Tori Wilson. Yeah. Here's a picture of my tongue down her throat.
Her hair barked like a dog.
Yeah. Oh, God. We've come a long way in a good way.
It's certainly a different place now.
Certainly is.
The one that I always, not to digress, but the one I always forgot about until recent memory, because you brought it up, I can't even remember what the segment was Dawn Marie had some of the worst fucking storylines.
My God.
And Tori Wilson's dad is probably just the most horrendous fucking thing. And I never remember it. It's not like something you go up there as like the cringiest thing ever. But it so fucking was. It's such a
it's so easily forgettable that when you see it again, you're like, oh God, this happened.
They did this.
This was the norm. Like, wow.
Anyway, slight digression. There you go.
So yeah, AJ Styles could be the face that runs the place eventually if he carries on going the way he's going, because they love him and they've signed him for more years. And that was the news this week. That was the news. We thought it was going to be short and sweet, actually, but yeah, we managed to.
Out of nowhere, the last day or so, the news actually picked up. Because honestly, guys, there was a point we were like, "There's nothing to even talk about."
Start of the week, we were like, "Well, this is going to be a quick segment."
Nothing's happening, and then suddenly loads of stuff happened.
Yes, it did. And speaking of things that's happening soon, for the love of wrestling, the Europe's biggest wrestling convention taking place on the 23rd and 24th of April 2022 in Liverpool, UK, just down the road from us. And here, we're going to be there, and you better be there.
That's not a reason to go. Here's some other reasons.
You're going to be square. So yeah, we're going to play you a little bit of a commercial now, and we will see you on the next one.
Indeed.
For Love of Wrestling, Europe's largest wrestling convention, returns to the Exhibition Centre in Liverpool on the 23rd and 24th of April. Guests this year include Diva of the Decade, Trish Stratus, the Wrestling God, JBL, the Dudley Boys, Tori Wilson, and just announced MJF from AEW. We will also be doing a Wyatt family reunion as we welcome Eric Rowan, the man formerly known as Braun Strowman, and indeed the Fiend Bray Wyatt. Also just announced is the man, the legend, the icon, Sting. And of course, your Olympic gold medalist, Kurt Angle. This and many, many, many more guests, as well as prop builds, Q&As with all of the wrestlers, and some of the biggest wrestling collections in the world on display from our exhibitors. Get your tickets at forloveofwrestling.co.uk or search Facebook or Twitter for the Love of Wrestling. For the Love of Wrestling, Europe's biggest wrestling convention, returns to Liverpool the 23rd and the 24th of April.
Hey guys, it's Georgia Smith here, and you've heard me on A2theK. These guys are awesome. Check it out. A2theK.
A2theK.